Hi class, this is drawing number 7 for your design. It's by Jean-Auguste Dominique Ingres. He was a French neoclassical painter, influenced by a lot of past artistic traditions. He inspired to be a guardian of the academy, the orthodox way of painting. That's why he's a neoclassicist. Meaning new classic. So he was trying to push back for like classical styles of painting when things were changing in this era of 1815. There was stuff like impressionism going on and things like that. He was pushing back for the older types of portraiture, history painting, still life, things like that. His portraits that are both painted and drawn, which this is one of them, are recognized as his greatest artistic legacy. This is a portrait of Charles Hyard and his daughter Marguerite. Drawing was the foundation of his art, really, in a lot of ways. He made hundreds of drawings of friends, family, visitors, and many of them are really high quality portraits like this. And he would never begin a painting without first resolving the drawing, which is a good practice in general, but not necessarily always so common. He would do a lot of long series of drawings in which he would refine the composition, and this was the case in his large history paintings. Each painting was like a lot of sketches. So this is kind of really important for his design work, and this kind of shows you the connection between design and drawing that we've been talking about quite a bit, and I've been having you do a lot of sketching and things to get you to realize that working it out on paper, some of you continue to insist upon trying to use tablets and things, but I think I really, really, really would like you to try to go back to paper because there's an immediacy of the mark that, despite people saying it's the same on a tablet, and I've drawn on tablets, it's not quite the same. And there's a proven psychological studies that working physically in reality with paper is a better way of memorizing and figuring things out. They've actually studied it versus digital. So I'm not anti-digital. I do digital work too. It's just I want you to work on paper. So he would do a lot of drawing. There's about 450 that are left of his portraits, and he had an uncanny capacity to seize or capture a likeness in precise but lively feeling features. You can kind of start to feel that in this, that it's definitely a drawing. It's not trying to be a photograph, but there's a precision in the way in which he's capturing his subjects. His preferred materials were sharply pointed graphite pencil on smooth white paper, so I recommend using pencil for this because that's what he made this in. And he would work for a really long time. He had a working routine that would require 4 hours of drawing and an hour and a half in the morning, then 2.5 hours in the afternoon, and he would sometimes retouch it the next day. So it's kind of, he was very methodical human. Um, and I think you can see that in his drawing style. So let's look at the design here. It's a man and his daughter. It's direct. They have a definite direct feeling of the gaze in both of them. And there's a overall shape in the middle of the paper that keeps our attention with a little bit of a feeling of his personality or him having a job or status with his hat and coat and things like that. They definitely hold our gaze, and he uses value. You see all this value in the hair in both of them and the hands to connect. It's obviously realistic to have value in places of shadow, but he's purposely made the hair dark on both of them. He could have done it this way with line work like the jacket. I'm sure it could have been, it wasn't a white jacket. So he purposely did that to create two areas where we're going to pay more attention to the picture, right? And then The other areas he draws attention to with the shadows, which would have been there, but he's exaggerated them, are this connection between the father and daughter. So that's interesting. The familial bond. So he's chosen to show them both kind of at their knees, which is nice and interesting. And he's really made it so we kind of get a sense of the person in their clothing and their whole, more of their whole body, not just their bust or their face. I think this is an interesting inclusion here we have to talk about, because he could have just kept this all empty over here and had nothing and just them sitting here, but he chose purposely to create this feeling of a interiority, a domestic thing, and also to give a feeling of who this guy is by the type of hat he wore. It makes it feel kind of crowded, but also creates interesting negative spaces around things. It creates a sense of place instead of floating people on just a piece of paper. So I think it's important. It's a little bit distracting in a way, but it leads our eye back in. If we stop there, we go back into the hat is darker, and then it brings us back up to the guy. So the way our eye movement happens throughout the piece. He's kept some texture on the little girl's dress, which is interesting. Part of keeping this visual interest in different places, like her collar, this guy's collar. But we definitely have a focal point on the face. So there's strong pieces. When you do this, you're going to want to use pencil and get an accurate line copy, right? The big shapes. It's a very good idea a lot of times when you're doing a head to give yourself access lines like this, and then you can kind of place the features more easily that way. That's an inaccurate axis line on his face, though. It's actually going at an angle. So that's interesting. He's got his head tilted a little bit. That'll help you. It'll also help you to kind of think about that in terms of the whole body. So you have like some points of reference where shoulders are and things like that. Before you go into all the detail, make sure you get as much down of an accurate, the big shapes, the contour line. And then when you go to add value, start with the darkest darks first, like these areas, before you're adding the rest of the highlight, the lighter value changes. Okay? It's a good work for you guys to study for a little while and get used to people, and also it's got a lot of really refined quality with the pencil. So if you can try to emulate his mark making and his line quality, it's a really good person to emulate in that way to develop different types of lines and line qualities. Alright guys, I hope you're staying well out there and enjoy doing some drawing. I'll talk to you soon.